All right, hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar on clarifying Wi-Fi terminology so that we can stop calling it a survey when it's really a design with Alan Blake. My name is Kelly and I work here at iBwave in the marketing department. Some of you may know me at a few of the Wi-Fi shows we've been to, as well as the voice behind the iBwave Twitter. If so, hi to all of you. We're going to get to the webinar shortly, but first I just wanted to briefly go over some housekeeping items with you, give you some introductions, and let you know who we are and what we're up to here at iBwave. So first, let's take a look at some of the housekeeping rules. So if you have any questions while we go through the webinar, please use the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel on your screen. We're going to get to as many questions as possible, both during the webinar and after the webinar, so don't be shy to send us your questions. I'm going to take them as we go. If you are on Twitter, be sure to follow us at iBwave and join the conversation at #iBwaveTalks. And last but not least, the webinar will be recorded and we will be sending you a copy of it once the webinar is complete. Next, I'm going to hand over the microphone to my colleague Scott, who some of you may have also met at the Wi-Fi shows over the last few months. Scott is our Director of Innovations here at iBwave and has been focused on our new Wi-Fi network design solution and is behind the launch of our new Wi-Fi suite of products, both the mobile app that we launched in February and the more powerful PC version that we're going to be launching soon in March. So Scott, over to you to talk a little bit about iBwave and what we're up to.
Excellent. Thanks for that introduction, Kelly. And hi, everyone. For those of you that I've met and look forward to meeting in the future. So I thought just before we get into the webinar, this is really an iBwave Talk session, so it's not focused around iBwave, but to introduce who is iBwave. For some of you, we are new to the Wi-Fi space. So we're a software company, and our specialty is really designing wireless indoor networks from every technology that you can think of, including Wi-Fi. And just recently, we've been seeing a lot of trend in Wi-Fi picking up, and you've probably all seen the announcements, partnerships between classical Wi-Fi vendors and cellular networks, as well as all of the applications that are being developed now for Wi-Fi. So what we've done is we've really ramped up our Wi-Fi capabilities in the tool, and as Kelly mentioned, we launched a standalone version of our tool. What have we been doing? Well, iBwave has been around since 2003. And as I mentioned, specialized in indoor. We've got customers in about 87 countries around the world. And when I speak of customer, we have about 500 or 600 corporations using our tool around the world. That said, what are the solutions that we have? Well, we've developed a platform that allows users to leverage their mobile phone or tablet to design Wi-Fi networks on the spot. What does that mean? You can do passive active surveys from your tablet or smartphone. And we have something that's a little bit innovative in the space is we have a cloud. And in that iBwave cloud, it allows you to store your projects, keep track of them, and also collaboration. So take, for example, you're doing a design in New York City, and your colleague is in LA. You can leverage that cloud to exchange files back and forth. And as Kelly mentioned, in March, what we're going to be releasing is a PC version to complete that loop. So you can start your design on a tablet, save it to the cloud, carry on the PC version, or back and forth. And our real goal is to be a production-focused tool. So we want to improve the production and the speed at which those Wi-Fi deployments are deployed, because we see a lot of projects coming up. On top of the production focus, we're also with the cloud, want to be there for the life cycle of a venue. So as projects get upgraded from N to AC and upcoming standards, because those projects will be saved up in the cloud, you can easily pool your network and pool your projects that you've done before, estimate what's installed, what you need to upgrade, and carry on. So enough said about iBwave. Let's get to the main event, and we'll get to Alan in a second.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, so time to get to today's topic, and I'm going to introduce our speaker, Alan Blake. So Alan is a recognized Wi-Fi expert with over 15 years of experience in IT and has achieved one of the Wi-Fi industry's top certifications as CWNE number 129. He has specialized in Wi-Fi for the last 5 years and currently works as a network designer at GE Networks and as the chief of Wi-Fi for GBR Networks. At some point, he was also a snowboard instructor, but says, "Fat lot of good that did me." He is a Wi-Fi enthusiast, a contributor, speaker, and blogger, and is keen to see the development of Wi-Fi standards across the industry. He's also very active on Twitter, so if you're not already following him, be sure to do so at Papa Giordi. So Alan, over to you to talk about Wi-Fi terminology.
Thank you, Kelly. So hi everyone, it's me, Alan Blake. I'm going to be whittering on for the next 40 minutes or so in my best English accent. I just want to say thanks for everyone for attending, and thank you iBwave for hosting and inviting me along to jibber jabber on a topic that I know is going to resonate with you all. I hope so. Anyway, we're all amongst friends here, so fire away any questions that are on topic at any time. Let me know your thoughts and whatnot going forward. Just a bit about me. Kelly touched on a few things. Recognized as a Wi-Fi expert. Wow, that's saying something. And if you guys want to do the same thing, if you're new to Wi-Fi, then if you want to get some certifications, then go check out the CWMP website. It's up on the screen right now. Go there and find out what they can offer and what they can do for you to learn Wi-Fi, the fundamentals, and progress if that's a career for you. I thoroughly recommend it. It's a great place to start if you're going to be making a career out of Wi-Fi. So, like I said, you're amongst friends here. So, before we get started and everything else, make sure you're nice and comfortable, settle down, nice cup of tea. I know I've got one right beside me. What we're going to talk about today, well, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about why terminology is important. We're going to skim the surface a little bit with some existing terms that are out there, some new terms that I've seen that have been introduced recently, and there are some of the terms and phrases that I think, and you probably think, that are misused. And if you do think that, then throw questions out to Kelly and Scott, and I'll see if we can get those mentioned on here today. We're also going to talk about surveys versus a design. Why we should say designs and not surveys. We're going to touch on the differences between doing a survey and doing a design. And then I'm going to talk about what I call my Devon play. So I'm going to suggest dropping the term survey from our vocabulary. Stop using it, full stop. It doesn't exist. Call it something else, and I'm going to tell you why. Oh, and for those of you who don't know what a Devon play is, well, let me briefly explain. If you don't know this guy already, Devon Aiken, he's a well-respected Wi-Fi expert in the field and an all-round great guy, but he does like to, how can I put it mildly, pull the pin on a few topics and then run. So some of his recent Wi-Fi discussions, to say the least, are a little bit controversial, but they're not. I mean, I just refer to them as just a Devon play. So this is what this one's going to be about, so stay tuned for that one. And then I'm going to give you what I call my design 129. I'll let you work that out. And then I'm going to not just tell you why we should stop using the word survey, but I'm going to give you a solution, an alternate approach and process to it all. So, why? Let's go straight into this then. Does it matter? Who actually cares about this particular topic? I mean, I first brought this up at the Wireless LAN Pros conference last year, and I thought I was actually being a little bit trivial. But actually, this question, it serves as a really good general introduction to this whole webinar, because some of you right now will be thinking, oh, come on, Alan, who really cares if we call it a survey? I mean, our customers don't care, right? I mean, they know what I mean. Well, no, I think you're actually wrong to think like that. And the reason why is, I don't know about you, but when I hear someone use a particular phrase incorrectly, especially a technical phrase, I just roll my eyes and sure, it's rife and everyone does it. But when I hear the same phrase repeated again and again and again, certainly by those who should know better, I mean, I just shake my head this time while I'm rolling my eyes and then burying my head in my hands. I mean, terminology is extremely important. It matters, and we should make every conscious effort to try to associate terms correctly. Simply because Wi-Fi, 802.11, wireless, radio frequency are technical subjects that require specialist knowledge. So I'm not going to teach you anything that you probably haven't heard before, but I am going to show you the error of our ways and how we should refer to terms like survey to correctly deliver a concept and accurate meaning, because words carry meanings that extend beyond their simple dictionary definitions, and it's a technical language that we all speak, and behind each technical term is a context that, if not conveyed correctly, will only serve to confuse and possibly mislead. So we need to realign ourselves a little bit today and accept that it's okay to change. Let's not be afraid. Just because it's always been called that doesn't mean to say that it has to be called that. I mean, stop perpetuating the problem. We want to provide clarity. We want to be clear. We want to be concise, because we know it misleads. You know, saying it's a survey when we really know it's a design, that kind of thing is what we want to change. You can't use it to suit you. Okay? When someone tells me they're going to do a design, when someone tells me I'm going to go and do a survey, I always ask them for clarification. I say, well, what are you surveying? What kind of survey are you doing? I shouldn't need to waste my time asking that question. It should be, I'm doing this, and I know exactly what they mean. This webinar is not going to be a glossary either. We're not going to go through every single technical definition, words or phrases, and decipher them. I'm not going to be doing that. I mean, this webinar is not really about misconceptions either. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to be doing any myth busting. You know, don't get me wrong, terminology and misconceptions are very closely linked, okay? Simply because when we use the wrong term in misconceptions, you know, they're born. They're born because we're using the terms incorrectly. It just means that the understanding becomes somewhat inaccurate. And a great example of the misconception is the actual term Wi-Fi, believe it or not. I mean, Wi-Fi itself, it has absolutely no meaning, yet we use it all the time. And it's a brand name that's basically owned by the Wi-Fi Alliance and probably trademarked by them too. And it's a misconception that everyone thinks it means wireless fidelity. It does not. It's got nothing to do with that at all. The correct definition of Wi-Fi is actually the IEEE 802.11 standard. Okay, so if you check out, go ahead and do this if you like. If you check out the Wikipedia page for the definition of Wi-Fi, it actually says wireless fidelity. I mean, this is why you should never trust Wikipedia for your technical meanings. So, you know, where do the terms come from as well? I want to talk about. I mean, you know, most of the time terms originate from our vendors. They also come from the IEEE. They come from engineers, and they come from almost always this wonderful guy. I'm sure you've all heard of him, but you might ring a bell. But his name is Mark Kettin. Wonderful chap. Anyway, so let me just throw in there that there's many on the call who are parents as well. How many of us correct our children when they use the wrong word in a sentence? We all do, right? So is what I'm asking you to do for Wi-Fi really any different? So some food for thought here. Words have meaning, and in our case, technical meaning. So using an incorrect definition only kind of sends the wrong message to our customers, peers, and anyone else who's going to listen. So on the screen, I want to give some examples that I deliberately picked out, and they slide nicely into what I call 4 categories. So let me stress that the categories are not important, but it's the true translation of the terms that are. Okay? So our first category is where we might be undecided which concept actually explains. And in this case, we're talking about the classic of co-channel interference versus co-channel contention. So to me, you see, interference, I think, is a derogatory term. Interference implies that it's uncontrolled. But we've got APs that are actually sharing the same channel to actually cooperate with each other. They're cooperating under rules of CSMA-CA, which is collision sense, multiple access, collision avoidance. So they're there to ensure, or he's there to ensure it's fair game, that the APs and clients, they all contend for airtime, to get on and off as quickly and as efficiently as possible. You know, co-channel is a specific 802.11 term, but we've got this raw RF interference that doesn't have any channel per se. I mean, it's just a frequency, right? So co-channel interference is one of those terms where we have always referred to it this way for years. So I really, really would love to hear your thoughts on this particular one. So to me, it should be co-channel contention. Another category that I've noticed is the oxymoron category. This is where we've got literal meaning that has no technical meaning, and it just absolutely makes no sense. You know, we've got the concept of a friendly rogue. I mean, you know, a classic oxymoron there. I mean, it's like saying, here's my friend Jack, lovely bloke, but you're still your wallet when you're not looking. I mean, what is friendly about that? I mean, it's one of those terms that's probably coined by the vendors, probably Mark Kettin again. So a rogue AP, the definition of a rogue AP is it's connected to a wired network and is unauthorized. Okay, that's the real true definition, but it's a misunderstood one. The friendly rogue is actually considered neighbor. It's a neighboring AP. It's an AP that's kind of not on your network, so it's not a security threat. So that's great, but why call it that? I mean, it makes no sense. Then we've got the predictive survey. Now, the predictive survey, big no in my book. I mean, what exactly are we actually surveying here? Nothing. I mean, we're not collecting any data either, so we're predicting. This probably made sense at the time to call it a predictive survey, but I'm glad that we've seen the light on this one, and we're now moving towards a better description, which is now being referred to as predictive modeling, which is great. So then we've got the other category that I kind of found that was one of these ones where we're kind of stealing terms and acronyms from within our own technical community to mean something else that they're not. The classic one that I want to kind of pick on, because it's a bit personal to me, is that this particular one, lightweight, this is the LWAP. Now, originally it was the Lightweight Access Point Protocol, so there were two Ps, and this was a vendor proprietary protocol, and it exists today. And then this is where we see this, where we seem to have dropped the letter P and decided to call it a lightweight access point. I mean, why? What gives us the right to actually do that? It's not okay to do this. I think we should stop calling it lightweight and call it something else, because it meant something originally, and it means something else completely different now. So, and the other one that fits into this category as well, and this is for the lovely Mr. Parsons. I know it's a personal favourite of his, but again, the original meaning of WAP was wireless application protocol, but somehow, again, it's been translated to mean a wireless access point. Again, probably Mark Kettin did that as well, didn't he? Hey? And then we've got the fourth category. And this is kind of like the new category where we've seen terms being introduced. We've got a classic one here, which is the client-induced interference. I mean, this is kind of opposite to co-channel contention. We overlook that clients cause just as much co-channel contention as our APs, but we have absolutely no control over those, but we do have control over our APs. So CCI, as it's known, may have clients that are transmitting, a high power that may traverse over two coverage cells. So it kind of like joining them together. So in essence, we're because the APs can hear the client's transmission, we end up losing the capacity, because it's almost as if the client itself is bridging. I mean, it's a really bad example to give you there, but the question I want to ask is, should it be referred to as interference? It's not interference, is it? It's, again, contention. It's part of the CA, sorry. So now we've talked about terms a little bit. Oh, actually, sorry, I do apologise. I've actually skipped one bit. So just wanted to refer to this term that I've seen banded around. Calling 5 GHz primary network, calling 2.4 secondary network. I don't know if you guys have actually seen this used at all anywhere, but I do like that better than saying 2.4 is dead, don't you? Saying it's secondary rather than saying it's on life support or 2.4 is dead. I mean, we're starting to push devices to 5 GHz because it's cleaner. We all know that. We've got more channels, but we don't have enough devices yet that are going to support 5 GHz, and it's going to be a very, very slow migration. So what do we think about those terms? Are they accurate? Are they fair? Are they relevant? Don't forget the direction of the IEEE is to move away from 2.4, with the likes of AC and so on. But what happens when we start to introduce what we know is coming, 900 MHz channels, frequency, sorry, and 60 GHz frequency? Where does that fit? Does that become the primary network then, if it's 60 GHz? So we've got to be careful here. So a little bit of food for thought when we do decide to put out some new terms in the industry. So if you know of any terms that we misuse, or any new ones that have started to be added to our repertoire, let me know. Okay, I'd love to hear from them. Some other technical terms I've heard used quite a bit, such as channel, misused terms such as overlap and RSSI, but I kind of put those down to misconceptions rather than a misused term. I mean, just to touch on the RSSI, I mean, we don't use it incorrectly. It's just a misconception that just because you've got strong SSR or four bars on your phone, 5 bars on your phone, that you're going to get fast speed. I mean, there's another factor to consider, which is your SNR. This is your signal to noise ratio. Okay, so this actually determines the data rates at which your clients are going to connect that. So if your SNR is no, but your RSI is good, it may be that your noise floor is possibly way too high. I mean, the noise floor is the ambient energy in the background that's given off by pretty much everything in the whole universe. Or it could be down to bad design. So RSSI isn't just about having the strongest signal. There's a lot of other factors to consider. Okay, so more of a misconception rather than a misuse of the word or the term RSSI. So I just want to clarify that particular one. So, survey v design. I don't know about you, but I seem to have pitted survey against design, and because that's what it feels like at the minute, doesn't it? I mean, to you, to me, I don't know, but it's like there's a constant battle between the two, because when you've got a survey, it's called a survey, but no, it's not. It's called a design. But I'm doing a survey. Yes, but you're doing a design too. I mean, survey and design are two distinctive processes, and they're completely independent of each other. Someone say, yes, you can produce a design without a survey. Of course you can, because we do this for deployments where the buildings don't even exist, and we want to know, the customer wants to know how much is it going to cost me to install a Wi-Fi network. We need to know where to run the cables. I mean, that makes good financial sense. Other reasons, other reasons why it doesn't make good financial sense is not to do a survey, because we don't want, or we don't need to do a survey because, well, we're going to be using an auto RF feature or RRM. I mean, that's a misconception right there. I'm sorry. So, how have we muddied the waters here? Is it fellow wireless LAN professionals who do this job on a daily basis? Are we getting lazy and just calling it a survey because, well, people understand what I mean? It's the job of the engineer to convey technical subjects to a technical and non-technical audiences. I mean, it's is it the non-wireless LAN professionals who, those without the full grasp and understanding of what survey is versus a design, are they the ones that are guilty and the cause of the problem? I mean, I generally don't know. I think it's a mixed bag, personally. But, let's go through some phrases that I hear a lot, and I wonder if they resonate with you too. So, great phrase here is, a customer wants me to go do a survey. I need to do a survey. So I need to go survey the site so I can tell you how many APs you need. I'm on site doing a physical survey. We charge for a survey which will probably take a few days to complete. Sound familiar? Have you all heard these phrases used before? Possibly. But what should they really be saying? I mean, customer wants me to go do a survey. No. The customer wants me to go complete a design. Or they want you to go do a working design. So, you could be there to go and to validate, to remediate a problem. I mean, I don't know of any customer out there who literally just says to me, I need you to go do a survey and not produce a design. Customers don't know sometimes the correct term to use, so they probably have heard it from yourself or someone else and said, well, just go and ask for a survey, that's all you need. I need to survey the site so I can tell you how many APs you need. No. I need to survey the site so I need to produce a design so I can tell you how many APs you need. Design will tell you that, not a survey. I'm on site doing a physical survey. No. I'm on site carrying out a validation. This particular one is about clarity, being precise in your explanations to customers. There are many types of surveys out there for which I'll touch on later, but this is a great example of a misused term. So then we charge for a survey which will probably take a few days to complete. No, the correct term should be we need to produce a design which involves a few days on-site surveying and modeling. We charge for this service. Okay, I'm being really picky here, and I know I'm sounding tedious, but look how we can construct a sentence that gives technical information that doesn't bamboozle. It kind of betrays professionalism. So what's the difference between survey and design, and why you need to know that we just can't call it a survey? So surveying, it's all about collecting data, information, and measurements. It helps aid the overall design, and it's a process that feeds into information that feeds into the design process. And I mean, a survey is and never will be a design. Okay, there are some skills in surveying, but the real skill is definitely in the design, because that's what your network is built from, the design. So what is the definition of a survey? Well, I split the survey up into two surveying type of methods. Okay, one is observation. That's non-tool, not using any particular tools, and this method would involve your eyes, your ears, and your voice. I mean, you've got a voice to ask the questions of the customer's environment, where they need the Wi-Fi, how many devices do they support, what device types do they support, what applications are you going to be running over your Wi-Fi network, why do you need Wi-Fi? It's listening to their business requirements. You've all heard about the greatest trick the devil ever played, right? So let me tell you the trick that the greatest trick the wireless LAN engineer ever played. I mean, he convinced the customer that he designed not for what they want, but what they need for it to work for the way they want. What does that mean exactly? Well, you need to listen to all the things that they want, but make sure you give them what they need, okay? Because they're not going to be technically savvy as you. You need to help them. You need to guide them. You're using your eyes to scan the areas for any constraints where APs can't be mounted or can't be mounted. You're walking the floor and you're validating your drawings to ensure that it's accurate. You may know areas of constraints, you may know areas of high density, or you may know areas where there are unique types of legacy clients, such as barcode scanners and warehouses and things like that. Another important factor to consider that we may overlook is the wired infrastructure. I mean, I can't stress enough that it's a really good idea to know where your comms rooms, your closets, your IDFs, and where all your switches are located, because there's nothing more frustrating than walking around, doing your design, doing your survey, and then finding out that you're a million miles away from the nearest switch, and then you have to redo it all again. Or that the switch was full to capacity and that you need to go and buy a new one, but you didn't include that in the bill of materials. Things like, does the switch even support PoE? So it's very important, okay? Another survey method that we can invoke is tools-based surveying. I mean, so just want to throw in there that there's absolutely no predictive surveying in this particular one. Okay, so this is a measurements-based surveying. I mean, this is basically using the tools at our disposal, okay? And there are many types of tools out there, but they're all there to do one thing, and that's pretty much take data measurements, okay? So from using a simple tape measure to measure the distance between pillars, we can scale and calibrate our drawings, okay? To making sure the environment is all clean, using a spectrum analyzer to identify non-802.11 interferers. I mean, that's important because non-802.11 interferers will defer your Wi-Fi transmissions. And then we've got a passive survey. This will detect 802.11 beacons from neighboring APs that exist. We're not talking friendly rogues, we're talking neighboring APs here. So you need to know what channel they're on to try to maybe turn them off, turn them down, remove them, but they need to cooperate with each other. And then, if needs be, you can design around them. But we need to be able to know in the first place what's in our environment, and that's what a passive survey can give you. It's still collecting data, it's still collecting measurements. There's also the AP on a stick type of survey. It's great if you have the time to do. I mean, it's definitely one of the most accurate surveys out there. I mean, I typically would use an AP on a stick if I've got to do some survey in an area where there's heavy-duty machinery and things like that. So I'm not quite sure how my RF is going to propagate. So, and I would probably want to replicate that into my predictive model. So I use an AP on a stick to do that, to get the RF footprint, to know just how bad or good it is, and implement that into my, as I say, into my model. I may also use an AP on a stick if I need to, say, measure the wall attenuation, the dB drop between those walls and various different things. And you know, I also will probably do a validation of a predictive model that I may have done. I mean, there could be some million reasons why I need to do that. I may not be able to come back to site again. So if I have the tools and the availability of the equipment, then I can quickly do a design, and I can quickly walk around and I can validate that design to make sure that it gets what I need. Again, if you have the luxury and the expense and a large truck to rock up to site with a lot of APs, then that's great. But not all of us have that luxury, I'm afraid. And then we talk about the spectrum analysis. I referred to this briefly before. This is where we can detect, as I say, non-802.11 devices that are going to be transmitting on our frequency. I mean, this is an important survey. I mean, and again, I don't think this is carried out enough, in my opinion. It's very important. I mean, we don't want APs and our clients to defer their transmission just because they detected enough energy to back off. We really want a nice, clean environment. Okay, that's good. You know, I'll also use a spectrum survey to get a more accurate idea of the noise floor too, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but in the past where I've connected you know, my NICs into my survey software, and I use USB hubs as I'm running multiple NICs, then sometimes they can give me some really high noise, bringing my SNR right down. So I tend to stick to using the spectrum to give me my baseline almost of my noise floor. And then we have the validation survey. Again, while this may not accurately fit in this particular slide, but I'm talking about pre-staged design and pre-stage surveying as opposed to post-stage. But I just want to again reiterate how it's always important to validate your designs, not your surveys, but your designs, okay? Because if you don't, then you don't know if your design succeeded. You don't know if it did what it was supposed to do, meet the requirements. That's as simple as that, meet the requirements. So do validation surveys, it's very important, and go do one even if you enable RRM, okay? Don't just assume RRM is going to fix your design or give you a brilliant design. It won't. Just validate it, make sure. Okay, good, brilliant. So now that I've kind of explained to you what surveying, or what is a survey, so I'm hoping anyone out there listening who's thinking, oh man, I've been saying this all wrong. I mean, it's okay. Like I said before, you're amongst friends. So let's talk about now what is a design and why design is a better definition to use rather than saying survey. So design is basically the output, okay? It's the construction that's really built upon a good survey. You know, it's of my opinion that a design encompasses a survey. It's the highest denominator, in all honesty. Therefore, that's why I think we should start calling a design and not a survey. You know, it's taken for granted that you do a design when you do a survey. If you don't survey, you should be surveying. I mean, design is the most important aspect, okay? Because without good design, then again, how do you know you're going to meet requirements? Design usually starts with getting out your predictive model. You know, loading your CADs. The first thing you do is calibrate your CAD. You know, you got all that information from your survey here, don't forget. So after that, you may start to edit the walls, modify the attenuation integers of the walls as well. Assuming that you've already drew your walls in, you may start to then place your APs on the floor, knowing that in the survey information that you collected, that you knew that you could probably place that AP in that position, and that it would reach back to the nearest comms room, for example, and I refer to the cable. So the next step would be then to select your APs, your antenna type, your transmit power, your channel, and these are just the basics, okay? And then you would place that AP on a floor plan, hit simulate, refresh, whatever, and away you go. So just remember that design is an iterative process, okay? So you can keep tweaking your design based on your requirements that you need to meet, whether that's for coverage, capacity, or the others like RFID or VoIP as just a few examples. You know, if you don't you need to meet all your goals. If you only meet one goal, go back, make necessary changes to your model, resimulate, hit the refresh button again, and keep going until you're done. I mean, you can always go back to doing a little bit more resurveying again if you need to get more information, more measurements if you need to. I mean, one key design tip I'll kind of always consider, in fact I'll give you two. First key design tip I'd tell you is to always reduce as much of your co-channel contention as possible. See, I'm not calling it CCI. This massively negates the capacity of your Wi-Fi network, having too high co-channel contention. Okay, it's the biggest contributor to poor performing networks, and you know, your own Wi-Fi network is going to cause a lot of your interference, for want of a better word. So you have the power to avoid it with good design. Okay, so make sure that you do your best to try to minimize your co-channel contention. The other design tip I can give you is, if you're on site and you've already carried out a site survey, stay there. Don't go anywhere. Stay on site and finish the design. Why? Because you're in the best place. Okay? You can take more measurements if needed. You can go to the customer and ask more questions if needed. You can go to see if you moved AP from position X to position Y. Again, you can go and see, is that position viable? Again, design is an iterative process, and being on site helps with that iterative process. Okay? Don't go home because you'll forget. You know, don't go back to the office, you'll forget. I take photos, and the good reason why is because I like to take photos of my AP locations, if I'm permitted to take those photos, of course. Now, the objective here is so I can give it to the cable vendor. So when I've completed my design, I'm on site, I like to go ahead and, once I've met all of my requirements, go ahead and take pictures of the final AP locations, okay? And then I can go and give those to the cable vendor, because you know, they're going to install the AP you know, accurately per my install instructions, right? I mean, obviously, it may not play out that way. I mean, you know, sometimes I've come to site and gone, hey, my AP was supposed to be here, you know, not 3 miles south of the Mexican border. You know, where is it? So, you know, but it'd be good if we could actually, and I'm going to be speaking out loud here, but it would be good if we could snapshot photos into, say, the actual survey tool or the design tool, so that when we print out our heat maps or our reports to pass over to the cable installers to give them the locations of the access points, it'd be great if there was a separate template or separate report that we could print that shows the actual photos or pictures of the AP positions that correlate to our AP positions. So if any of you vendors out there like iBwave are listening, so let's recap, because it's important that, you know, when we finish the design, okay, we design to requirements. We check, we validate. I mean, does it meet requirements? No. Then rinse, repeat. We go back, reevaluate, redesign, reevaluate, redesign. Okay? So one other thing as well to remember is, don't forget the wired side of things, okay? Don't forget to check your cable distances, your port capacity, and your power requirements of all your switches as well, okay? Because those things tend to get forgotten. So now that we've got that cleared up, the difference between survey and design, let's go on to the dev and play. So here it is. This is my dev and play. So I strongly believe that the word survey is overused. We've abused it. It's misconstrued. Look how many different variations there are. Look how many different words there are to explain the same thing. Passive, active, iPerf, pre, post, physical, deployment, continuous, spectrum, site, predictive, install, AP on a stick, validation. Christ, do we really need all of those? You know, it's as if to top it all off, right? That guy, Mark Ketton, right, decides, nah, we don't have enough words, we need more. Let's throw these words in a big tombola drum, you know, the kind of drums that you put the raffle tickets in, you spin it around, and then, you know, let's try to make surveying sound really cool, exciting, a bit sexy. So we pull off the first one. We don't like the site survey team term. It's a bit dull. So next we're going to pull out the next word, physical. Okay, we've got physical site survey. No. Pull out another word. It doesn't sound exciting enough. Okay, the next word is deployment. No. Let's do it one more time. I really love this game. Do it again. Okay, here we go. Okay, pre. Okay, hang on a minute. Wait a minute. How about a pre-deployment physical site survey? Amazing. Wow. I can't wait to tell my customer what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. It's the same thing as just saying site survey. Is it not? We need to be clear with what type of survey that we're doing. I admit that. We need to determine whether it's pre-survey or whether it's post-survey, whether it's a spectrum survey or whether it's an API on a stick survey. I feel strongly that we've kind of taken survey as far as we can with it. Does it fit within the design process? Is there something better that we could use to describe a survey? I mean, if we don't really want to let go of the word survey, we could just demote it to be just a small reference as part of a particular task that we might do within a design process. So I hope you're still with me and that no one's actually dropped off the call, or that I've offended anybody or upset anyone in any way. But I'm going to put the pin back in now and give you a proposal to what to call the survey if it's not a survey anymore. Okay? What I did was really simple. What alternative word would better describe, better serve, and embodies a survey? And I literally just typed in the word survey into a thesaurus in Word, and I went through the list and picked them off one by one. What else can we use? Review? Nah, too librarian. Study? Nah, too studenty. Examination? Too anal. Investigation? Wow, it's too police, isn't it? I mean, scrutiny? Nah, too political. Inquiry? Too governmental. And then I stumbled across one particular word that fitted nicely. Fits the bill absolutely perfect. And it's this word, assessment. So, wait a second. Why am I looking at an alternative word? You just whittled on for the last, 45 minutes or so talking about calling it a design, not a survey. Okay, hands up, you got me. The term design on its own, I think, is just not the answer. It's too ambiguous. And it's, you could argue that we might call this a design process, but the word process, I think, would just get dropped and we'll end up just calling it a design. And, the design doesn't really encompass the installation or the validation, does it? I mean, not on its own, and that was my fear. So I thought about it and I put together kind of a replacement, and I call it the Staged Wireless LAN Engineering Process, or SWEEP. See the play on the 3 E's there as a subtle salute to the IEEE, and of course 3 E's in engineering. I mean, rocket science there, aren't. So customers want Wi-Fi, so I'm going to go off and I'm going to do a sweep. Sounds pretty cool, sounds pretty high tech, pretty covert, don't you think? Maybe not, but what does it all mean, really? I mean, what we do is staged. It is staged. It's wireless. We are all engineers, and it's a process. It's not reinventing the wheel, far from it. It's putting the wheels on the car in the first place, because right now I don't think we're going anywhere. So there are 4 stages to this sweep. You've got the assessment stage, design stage, installation, and the validation. So if we break it down further so I can explain each one. Assessment, this is what we need to do to gather the facts. This is where we ask, this is where we investigate, this is where we measure, and yes, this is where we also survey. And I know you'll do a passive survey. I know you may do a spectrum survey. I know it'll be pre, and I know it's going to be on site. So this is what it should be instead of a survey. Surveying becomes a subtask within the assessment stage. So go do an assessment. I know what you're doing. It's clear to me now, and it has a lot of meaning that doesn't confuse. The next stage, design. I mean, this is born from our assessment methods, all right? So this is the data gathered, and these are the measurements that are applied to our models to produce the design that, again, meet the requirements. Design kind of exists as a subtask, much like the survey does. But, this is where the skill is in the design, where all knowledge and training comes into play to make sure that your design is fit for purpose and, again, meets the requirements. But, again, I just can't see design as encompassing all of these 4 stages. I really don't. So, you know, the other stage to consider is the installation stage, just as important, because that's where the mounting and the installing of the APs, the cabling, the wired infrastructure, such as, you know, our switches that are going to support and connect our access points. I mean, this stage can consume, you know, a lot of time here. So, you know, it's there in its own right. And then we've got the validation stage. Okay, so do what we need to do to gather the facts that our design met the objective. Okay, this is where our networks are assessed. We know it's a post, and we know it's probably going to be passive, and we know it's going to be on site. So just call it validation. We don't need to call it a post-deployment site survey. It's a fitting description, I think, just calling it validation. I mean, it's probably one of the most important things that we do, and it is taken for granted, because not everyone thinks that we need to go and do a validation survey because Wi-Fi works. I mean, the customer says, well, we tested it. Oh, really? So the customer says, yep, it's all working fine, I'm connected. No need to come back and do a validation. So come Monday morning, it grinds to a halt because the design was flawed, but the customer said it was okay. That customer is going to haul your behind back in first thing in the morning to make sure that it's up and running. So don't take it for granted. Validate. Make sure your coverage is good. Make sure your other requirements are also met, and also make sure that your co-channel contention is minimum you can get it. So if you notice there as well, there's a dotted line, a dotted arrow to the word optimize located in between design and validation. So it kind of does 2 things here. It kind of, again, the arrows demonstrate the iterative approach to this whole process. Again, that's a wonderful word that was coined recently to describe this whole way we go about installing and designing Wi-Fi networks. But, you know, the idea behind this is sometimes, you know, we can ignore the installation stage, okay, completely, and we can just literally just go and assess. We can go design, and then we can validate. Did it meet our requirements? Yes, no, okay. Rinse, repeat. Optimization and remediation isn't a kind of stage on its own, I don't think. Now, I know some of you may disagree with me on this one, but if you have to remediate something or you have to go over and optimize it, then there's a chance that one of the previous stages failed. The assessment failed, the design failed, the installation failed, or the validation possibly failed. So I know I'm sounding a little bit harsh here, but, you know, there are always things that we cannot control, and that's why it's kind of like a dotted line, you know, is a mini sub-stage to take it if you need it, you know. But I don't think it warrants a stage process out on its own. So whether you agree with me or not, some of these issues, then, you know, I want to hear. We unnecessarily confuse and we misuse terms quite a lot. I mean, we use them interchangeably to suit our own self-gratification and our audience. I mean, there are many, I think, well-regarded individuals within the Wi-Fi community who have published and presented their own take on design process. I refer to the likes of Devin and the likes of Andrew Van Nage with his 7 C's of design, and here I am putting myself forward with my sweep. You know, we have no rules, we have no standards, and we're kind of ungoverned. We don't have a body to formalize processes, acronyms, or terms, so inevitably someone's going to try to impose their own and have a crack at this. But, you know, this can have a negative impact, as I've keep saying before, that, you know, we can end up with too much saturation. I know that we all want a process, and I know that we need it. We have design standards for cabling by the TIA, EIA, for example, for categories 3, 5, and so on and so forth, but we don't have any design standards that equate to category cabling at all. You know, I'm not saying that we should start vetting terms that people put forward. You know, the world's moved on since the last 8 years or so. I mean, it wasn't a problem then. Wi-Fi was small, it was niche. Wi-Fi was few and far between, and surveying was the colloquial term that included everything, and it was fine. But since the advent of the iPhone and other BYOD devices, you know, the landscape's changed. Wi-Fi's grown. It's getting bigger and bigger, and Wi-Fi is becoming the primary network medium, and it's going to probably replace switches at the edge. Well, the only need for switches at the edge will be just to connect the APs, not our users. you know, and we ourselves are growing as a community. You know, we've got new Wi-Fi enthusiasts coming on the scene all the time, all wanting to contribute, all wanting to learn Wi-Fi, all wanting to know, well, what is the right way to do a Wi-Fi design? Could this work? I mean, absolutely. I've always said this before. If we lead, others will follow. You know, we no longer use predictive survey as a term anymore. We started to use the predictive modeling as a more accurate and corrective description. Okay, it's going to take time, and there will be certainly bumps along the way, but it's well worth it. And here's a quote that perfectly sums up this webinar very, very nicely. So all I can say now is thanks very much for listening, and I hope you join me next time when I talk about dropping the word design from our vocabulary. I'm only kidding. Kelly, Scott, over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan, and great job. So, Alan, we have a couple of questions on the bridge. I'm going to start with one that came in here. And so it goes like this. What questions do you ask your customer that help you understand their mobility requirements? How do you validate, assess, design based on customer requirements?
Great question. So just go ahead and just find out exactly what their clients are and what they actually want to get out of their Wi-Fi network. So find out, as I said, where they want their Wi-Fi to operate, what kind of applications they're going to be running over that Wi-Fi network, and it's find out as much information as you possibly can. In all honesty, you know, it's important it's all about clients at the end of the day. Wi-Fi network is the be all and end all. Really, really work out what your client's capabilities are, what their constraints are, what they support, what they don't support, and ensure that you just make sure that, again, meet requirements based on the client capabilities. Okay. So I didn't get there are two parts to that question.
Yeah, so basically the question was what type of questions to understand their mobility, and how do you validate and assess them afterwards?
Okay, so to validate and assess them, I mean, you can easily just literally, once you have your clients, if you want to work out how they roam, go ahead and walk the entire site. Run an application, run a continuous ping, run FTP, run a call, browse the web. Very, very simple. Just keep motoring along.
Excellent. Other question that we have here was you mentioned about the importance of the cable route when you're doing a survey. How do you capture that today, and do you find that installers will follow the outline paths that you specify?
No, you can't determine the cable path at all. You're going to have to rely solely on the cable installers to determine that. I think the only thing you can do is to guesstimate, in all honesty. You know, just always remember that where you mount the AP, cables don't run in a straight line. You know, the quickest route to the nearest closet. Just make sure that you kind of gauge and have an idea. You know, best practice that I always do is work out, well, where is, say, 75 meters, and allow yourself a 25-meter leeway just in case that, you know, you go over that. But also maybe in your design, allow yourself 10 meters of AP mounting, you know, in a radius, for example, just in case that, you know, the cable runs are further than you may have thought. But this will be done by the cable installers, and once they get that information back to you, then if you need to, rework your design.
Okay. And then another question here from someone you might know, Mr. Badfi, Eddie. He's asking, what's under your hat?
My grey hair. Always my grey hair. It's getting greyer as well, the older I get, and the more I learn and the more I'm stressed. Yes, plenty of grey hair. Thanks, Eddie.
Excellent. So that's it for the questions we have on the bridge right now. I think we'll wrap it up here. We're getting close to the hour. I just want to thank everyone again for attending this this webinar. As you can see, we really like hosting those kind of webinar where we bring specialists to the stage and really give them free rein to discuss topics that are pertinent to Wi-Fi. Some of you I'll probably be catching next week at the WiLAN Pros Summit. So if you don't know about this summit, definitely check it out. Google WiLAN Pros. It's a great forum to bring together experts and share ideas. I had the luxury of attending the event in Berlin. Got a lot of great content out of that, and looking forward to next week. And as I said, keep your eyes posted. We're going to be having our release of our PC version to complement the mobile version that we released in January. That should be available in March. And yeah, looking forward to meeting you guys. Thanks again. Thank you, Alan, and thanks everyone for attending the webinar today.
Thank you.